Bingo. It is April 20th, 2020. You are listening to the Rough Tumble Podcast.
You are now listening to the Rough Tumble Podcast.
That was so unnecessarily loud on my end. I don't know how.
It was cutting out on. I think it's because you have the filter thing on or whatever.
Oh yeah. That's
yeah.
possible.
So every now and then it would play, and then other times it wouldn't, just depending on where your microphone, I guess, was.
The intro was just like banging in my headphones. I was like, "Geez, I'm not that hyped right now. I'm not on that level. I'm still in my pajamas." I don't think I've like put on normal clothes in a good while. There was a whole maybe like, you know how like a shower cycle sometimes is like 2 or 3 days.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a whole shower cycle where I didn't put deodorant on, and I got to when it was time to shower again. I was like, God damn, I need to shower. Like that is.
It's part of my everything's regimented with me. So like, I don't forget to put deodorant on as long as I don't forget to brush my teeth, and I also don't forget to put deodorant on.
Oh, see,
but if I forget to brush my teeth, then I don't put deodorant on.
I'll brush my teeth, and we have 2 bathrooms, and I'll like wake up and brush my teeth in one room, and then go in the other bathroom and like maybe put on deodorant in there and like shower in there. Go get a towel out of the other bathroom.
This is utter chaos.
Yeah, dude, you know how I live my life. I'm just kind of all over the place. This is another episode with Stephanie on.
Yep.
And Craig.
Yeah, we brought Craig on, and now people are gonna be like, "Who the fuck's Craig?" He's our recording engineer. So we now have a recording engineer and an intern.
Yeah. Are we still counting Stephanie as an intern, or has she graduated to producer? We haven't fired her in a good episode.
No, I've come so close. I've come so close.
Yeah.
So many times.
I think
I've never met somebody that could mess up recording over the phone like she can.
I've never met somebody that can mess up something so complicated as consistently as I can.
That's true.
You're perfectly on par with how badly I screw things up, Stephanie. So don't be concerned.
No, you guys both have way more responsibility than I do with this whole thing.
I was telling, when were we talking? Yesterday when me and Stephanie got on to do our commercial that you didn't show up for, Mitch. Actually, by the way,
where was it? We had a commercial yesterday.
Yeah, we were supposed to.
We were
I thought you texted and said, "Don't worry about it."
Well, I did. That was after me and Stephanie had got on Discord and were like, had a little meeting without you.
I'm going to be honest, guys. I was so drunk that
it's a good thing that we didn't have you on there.
Yeah, like I was insanely drunk.
That's fantastic.
And so that's why I didn't remember. I'm not even sure I was even at my house when you guys were doing that.
No, I think you were. I don't know where you were.
We had my daughter's birthday was yesterday, so we had a little get together, a small COVID-19 appropriate distancing get together, and I had a lot to drink.
No, we assumed that like you were asleep or something, and so
nope, I did not go to sleep till about 4 a.m.
Oh wow, man, you really did have a good time.
Yeah.
I was exhausted at like 9:30. I think it was. I was like, guys, I'm going to bed.
I remember seeing that. now that you guys say something.
That's awesome. Well,
So is that why at 9:55 you said, "Hey, I hate to be that guy, but I'm tired, so let's reschedule this for tomorrow."
Yeah, that's exactly why.
Yeah.
And you guys had been waiting on me?
Since 9:00. I even made sure to get home from Hot Springs by 9:00.
Oh, I did because you said let's go, and I said stand by. I'm about to be home, and then I was never heard from again.
Mitch, me and Stephanie want to talk to you about a problem that we see arising with you.
Is this an intervention?
Yeah, sit down, please. We brought your family here to talk to you. No, that's literally like the first time that Mitch has ever let me down, so I'm fine with
That's
it.
true. And again, like it just goes to show you how scatterbrained I was. And I didn't even answer for 30 minutes. Like you said, let's go at 9:07, and it was 9:30 when I answered you back.
That's kind of why we were like, oh, he's just probably asleep. And then I was like, well, I'm going to bed because I'm tired too.
It makes more sense now. That whole conversation now makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes no difference though. But fuck you, you're fired, Mitch.
That's fair.
Stephanie had a conference call, and we voted you out.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So Stephanie's been promoted to producer, assistant to the
assistant regional manager.
You know what's fun is like we really do get to just make up whatever fucking roles we want to.
Oh, I know.
It's like,
and then you still get to put them on your resume because definitely if you put those on a resume and they call us, we will tell them that you did those things.
Yeah,
we're not gonna, she worked on our podcast. She was our executive producer for several years, and
also when the IRS calls us, we will tell them, yes, you did those things. So,
I've never received a 1099.
You're in it for the good and you're in it for the bad too. But
we're just gonna write like instead of 1099s, we're just gonna give you a bunch of sticky note IOUs like from Dumb and Dumber.
Keep that. You really gonna hold on to that one.
You're gonna hold that. It's $250,000. That's a car.
Yeah. I guess this would be a good time as any to introduce the series that we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this.
I am too, and it came as just like I don't even know where it came from. Totally kind of random. We've kind of been mulling it over for a couple days at that point, and then it just all dawned on me. I was like, holy cow. But basically we're gonna do a series of our take on kind of the renegades of martial arts, the people that started what we're doing now. Starting off with this series, the reason that you have rank in the first place, Kano Jigoro.
Yes. So the plan is to. Are we going to talk about the 3-part series, or do we just want them to let it be a surprise?
Oh no, we can talk about all 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to like get people excited about it, all 3 of it. Yeah, go ahead.
So the idea is we're doing 3-part series. First episode being today is going to be over the roots of Kano and his contributions to the gentle art, and then we're going to talk a little bit about martial arts in general, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Maeda on the next episode, and then finally we'll close out the 3-part series with kind of distinguishing the family trees of talking about Carlos Gracie's side and the Luis Franca side, where GF team and the non-Gracie lineage of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes from.
Really kind of where the tree branches, you know. But the reason I said like the contribution to martial arts in general for Kano is like he's like judo is known as like the first modern martial art.
What's interesting about the really judo thing is, so I've just always known judo was a thing. Like, you never really think about the inception of these martial arts that we have names for now, because karate at one point was not called karate, but we don't have any, we personally, and I'm sure that Mr. Dreen and other people out there do, but have, the history of that, but we don't know where the history of karate came from or where the name started at or whatever. But it's kind of cool when I was doing some research. The realization of, there was a time when judo wasn't judo,
Right.
and then it became judo.
Judo is such a fine-tuned art. It's just like, you think that it's just been around for thousands of years. Like, wrestling is kind of that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always view wrestling as like, this is something that's like pretty much been perfected. Like everybody that does anything in wrestling is just a better version of what somebody else has already done.
Oh yeah.
There's very few people, every once in a while somebody will come around where like there's this new technique, but it doesn't seem like it's being just completely innovated the way that we've seen like jiu-jitsu has been.
And what's interesting is, and we'll talk about this as we start kind of getting into Kano here in a minute, is that just like with other martial artists like Bruce Lee and guys like that, he took a couple of things from a couple of different martial arts and put them together to create judo.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that, because there's like, that was something that I was like really, really into and noticing, was that it's a similarity amongst all of them. It's like, and even today you see like these people that are the innovators, and like, as much as you hate to give it to Eddie Bravo, there's a lot of stuff that he really has like pushed into jiu-jitsu, even though it came straight from wrestling. Like,
absolutely.
there's stuff that most of his stuff is just like pulled straight from wrestling.
When he even said that, I mean, he said that when he first started training jiu-jitsu, he had no idea what he was doing. So he just kept doing what he did know, which was wrestling moves.
And it makes sense. Like, that's, and that's exactly where Kano was too. It was like, it makes sense to start looking at these other grappling arts to try and put in and mix. I've been thinking a lot about it actually, because like our friend from Britain, Alex, sent the did you watch the Hodger Gracie documentary?
I haven't yet.
I watched it, and it was really good actually. I was really into it. It documents his journey to the absolute title.
That's super cool.
Because he keeps getting like Jacare beat him that first year in 2004, and then
he broke his arm.
Yeah, when Jacare broke his arm and everything,
which also was the actual fight that introduced the failure to engage rule for the IBJJF.
So in 2005, he lost again to Jacare, and then like he just went on this losing streak for the absolute title, and finally, once he finally ended up winning it. But that whole journey was really interesting. It was really interesting to see like the legends too. You can spot like Andre Galvo in the corner somewhere. Romulo Barral is in one of the fights with him and stuff. So you see like some of the legends of today at the beginnings of them, of their journeys as well. I don't know. It was really interesting. You should watch it though.
Yeah, it was really cool of Alex to give us that link to be able to go and do that. I get so scatterbrained throughout the day, just because when I'm not working, I'm here taking care of the kids, and it's not easy to sit down and just do something, because every 10 seconds I've either got a baby crying, or I've got another child that has severed their hand, or caught something in the backyard on fire.
Now you're working on your 12th child.
Yeah. No more.
So, but that was something that Kano had been that's a staple across his kind of like journey in martial arts, was constantly like looking outside of their boundaries for more techniques and to further their art. And I always thought that was really I think that's really interesting to see the parallels. The other thing that was really cool is like, it really makes you feel like things aren't so different from then and now, because there's like still, he got into it because he was like a small, frail kid.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and like like everybody that gets into martial arts is. So it's I don't know, it's interesting to see those parallels. Oop. Do we have anybody in our Discord right now?
I don't know how to look.
Stephanie, are you looking back and forth? Is Stephanie still with us? Stephanie fell asleep.
Nailed it.
And now Stephanie's gone.
No, I hit the wrong button.
Oh, classic.
Allegedly.
I took it off mute. I was on the other, my tech side. Rachel's kind of gone on and off with no questions yet.
Oh, okay. You can get on there and like, be on there and be like, "Yo, send us questions or whatever."
Already on it, boss.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So we're in the process of trying to figure out how to use Discord, and it's interesting. But I think it's so cool. I really think that it's like the future. You know, we get to have our own like podcast, AOL chat room.
I know.
And especially in like what's going on right now, like it would just make sense to have him.
Especially right now.
Yeah. You know who would love it? Dr. Kano Jigoro would love it.
Because of his innovations. And the thing is he really didn't innovate much. But, you know, to kind of, I guess we can go ahead and kind of start going down that path. But like we said earlier, just like with the Gracies, right? He was a small, frail kind of guy, got constantly bullied apparently, and decided he wanted to get into martial arts. But the interesting thing about it was his dad initially was against it because his dad believed that education was primary. Like you had to be educated because that's what he was in Japan. He was a teacher. He was actually an educator in Japan. And that was what he did as a profession. But his dad finally gave in after he kind of saw how dedicated he was to really learning the martial arts. And so he was like, basically like, yeah, if you're going to do this, then you're going to go all in. Like, you know, we don't do anything half-assed. So if you're going to get into this, you're going to get into it then. And that kind of is what led him into that path.
It showed too that he was like throughout all of it, though, he was an intellect. Like he was a person that would study and learn. And back then, I mean, like you wouldn't be able to pull those techniques from wrestling and from other martial arts if you didn't excuse me, if you weren't studying. There's like no other way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
like
go
you
ahead.
can hop on YouTube and watch a bunch of YouTube videos real quick.
That's
like,
what I thought was interesting was throughout the story of his life, it talks about how, you know, when he started training in his first martial art and he was having trouble beating some of the guys in the class, and he would incorporate stuff like the kataguruma from wrestling. And that was actually, it was called like the cartwheel shoulder throw was like what it was originally called, which I found out is not allowed to, you can't do katagurumas in judo competitions.
Right, because you touch the leg.
Yeah, that's super weird.
In 2010, they banned touching the leg. So it's like kataguruma is like shoulder wheel throw or something like that. But yeah, like in 2010, they banned touching the leg in judo, which is really interesting because like that's apparently Kano's favorite technique. The creator of.
Yeah, he was kind of almost, you know, it is kind of ironic that his go-to technique was a technique that was later banned in his own sport.
Yeah, like I don't know, how do you do that? It doesn't make any sense to me. That's such a clear night and day thing. But he was also like extremely it seemed like he was extremely into safety too, because he would keep track of how much everything, what injuries happened in the dojo, or how they happened, what techniques caused what injuries and things like that. So he kept track of those kinds of things. And go ahead with your with your documentary on it, Mitch, did you have more to say about it?
Yeah, and so one thing also that I thought was interesting, um, it doesn't really say this or kind of allude to it. It alludes to it, but it doesn't actually say it. But I
Totally
guess
made
his, huh?
I totally made it up.
Yeah, I'm assuming that his family had a little bit of money, because his parents, um, they ran a sake brewing company. Like that's what
Yeah.
they did. That his family brewed sake, and he went to private schools, and so
Mhm.
he had his own English tutor. He was actually in a school that allowed him to improve on. He had German. He knew German, English, all that, and like it just doesn't seem like in that time, in the 1800s, like it didn't seem like you could just the average person couldn't send their kids to those types of things,
Well, and what's interesting too is like around that time in Japanese history, you originally couldn't learn martial arts unless you were of like nobility or like you were a samurai,
Hmm.
And then eventually it dwindled down to you could only learn the martial arts if you had money. And then so like the people that had more money could learn the martial arts. And then
Again,
eventually
that's an interesting correlation considering where jujitsu went and the way it was propagated in Brazil after the fact, considering the
right.
Gracie family and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that I think because of Kano's, I don't know if it's directly, but I think like because of Kano's efforts, he opened it up to a more wider group. Like I guess he, of course, opened it up to a wider group, but I mean like broke it out of like it's only for the rich kind of thing. Does
Hmm.
that um but yeah, originally, I mean, it was for people that had money, and that would make sense that, Kano would have money or his family would have money, uh, and him, you get what I'm saying? Like that lines up.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it would be something of for nobility or whatever the case may be, just because you have to pay for that. And so families during that time, I can imagine, if it was non-essential, you didn't put money toward it. And so the idea of paying for martial arts lessons, it makes sense that it would be more reserved for the rich, only because they were the only ones that were going to be able to have the disposable income to pay for the lessons themselves.
Right, right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Um, go ahead. You had more. You have like
Yeah,
a
he
you have a whole thing. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I've spent a lot of years, going down this path. But um, what? So he did initially start training jujitsu. His dad finally let him start training jujitsu, and he actually, when he was initially trying to find teachers, which I mean, I don't know what the prevalence was for martial arts teachers. We all think about it and go, well, everybody in Japan knows kung fu, so how hard is it to find a
Yeah,
martial arts instructor? But
they were
um,
he looked for bone setters, right?
yeah, bone setters. Yeah, so they were basically doctors, and it was because he believed that they would have a stronger idea of anatomy and the
Dude, hold up.
understanding.
Let's go back. How fucking cool of a name is Bone Setters?
I know.
That's a badass name. Like that would be a sweet uh band name. That would be a sweet like group of people. What if like our Rough and Tumble crowd that was their, how like your people's fan base or whatever has like a name to them or whatever? What if that was their name? Bone Setters.
I think it's a pretty awesome
That's
name
such
to begin
a
with.
badass name. It could be like a motorcycle gang name. Yeah, we're the Bone,
Yeah.
but it would be a
um,
motorcycle gang.
they were basically like that time in history's chiropractors. Like
Yeah.
a physical therapist, whatever. They would reset dislocated bones and joints and things like that.
I bet
Um,
equally as terrifying too.
Well, they didn't have any formal training. That was the crazy part. Like they had no formal training. They just kind of like figured it out, and they got passed down from father to son and from
But
like generation to generation.
it was Japan like 1860, so I bet it was like they were probably like had everything figured out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because bone setting it had been around since like the 1500s. So it had been around for years. Apparently it was like a pretty well-known practice in Japan at the time. But it's kind of cool to know that he understood that their level of understanding, and that's who he sought out to learn that from.
Yeah, it would make sense because they would understand where the leverage points, where the places of leverage are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so once he did eventually find a teacher, what I thought was kind of cool was you really get to kind of see throughout his development the different styles. So judo is really well known for the kata and the randori. We don't say niwaza, we don't say randori and kata in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's kind of an antiquated term, but judo it's still a pretty well-known term. And so his first teacher actually stressed more on technique over the actual ritual of doing the katas. And so he would give the students a short description of the technique and then be like, all right, you guys practice it, like go drill it or whatever. And then once they drilled it, then they would graduate to the katas, which is basically no contact, which is kind of a strange way to do it. Like, it's almost like you're doing it backwards. You're learning the technique and practicing the technique in real time before you go through all the movements and motions of learning it at a slower pace, which was kind of weird.
Yeah. Bone setters, Stephanie just said bone setters are dated back to 1552 BC.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Dude,
around the Egyptian times.
Have you ever watched I got really excited about have you ever watched on YouTube? Sometimes I'll find videos that are like 1906 New York City.
Right.
And it's like restored video footage or whatever of just like driving down through New York City, and it's like just completely quiet or whatever. But it's like I watch those all the time. They totally trip me out. I think they're freaking awesome.
I think it's funny that people are making posts on like Instagram of obviously current photos, but they're doing the whole like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like they take old photos and they colorize them, and it'll say like a boy and his dog in 1906 New York colorized.
Yeah.
They've been doing that with like super modern day photos too, and it makes no sense.
People are getting so dramatic about all of that.
I know.
I just want to go. I want like a time machine to be able to go back and like see what things were actually like. What would like? I can't stop thinking about what would it be like in a bone setter's office. I bet that would be one of the most terrifying places if you were just plopped into with no context. Like, imagine Mitch just gets pulled from his chair right now and plopped into 1552 into the first bone setter's office, doctor's office,
or a dental office.
Yeah, I'd be shitting myself, dude.
I think dentistry would be way worse. Like.
Oh, I already have a legit, I actually have a phobia of the dentist. They terrify me.
And they have modern technology. Like, imagine what it was like back then when there was.
Dude, you cannot tell me that. Think about any dental instrument. None of that has progressed since the 40s.
There's been no reason to.
Not a single bit of it. Like, it's all still like air pressure drills that are like these giant fucking needles that. Like the needles always look like comically large and have like the giant metal plunge, like the hook that your thumb goes into, and they push it into. It's the needle's like 6 feet long. No,
I wonder when dentists go to dental school, because they teach doctors how to develop bedside manner and stuff like that, and they teach customer service representatives how to provide customer service. But every dentist I've ever been to,
doctorate. What's a doctor school? I don't know. Medical school for lack of bedside manner, get sent to dental school.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, is it's like dentists still feel like they're supposed to have some form of bedside manner. And so they still try to have conversations with you when you obviously cannot talk to them.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Like
yeah. That's
I've
like,
never understood that. I've never once gone to a dentist where at least 3 times they didn't ask me a question that required me to answer while they had their hands in my mouth.
and they're such judgmental assholes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who comes out of the dental office without a cavity these days? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And then so like you go in there like, oh, this cavity, oh my God. You know, and you're like, dude, stop looking at me like that. Fuck.
Yeah. You
So
realize
I
that
have
everybody has cavities. It doesn't mean I do meth.
Yeah.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
tattoo on the inside of my lip,
Oh, I
and
bet.
my dentist wanted to take a picture.
Oh,
No
nice.
kidding.
Mhm. Yeah.
Part she's not telling you is that he was highly drugged and not wearing a shirt.
Yeah. Of course I'll take a picture with you.
Of course.
Speaking of tattoos, I was thinking about this the other day, Postmate stuff. I had I was at Sonic and the guy goes, "Oh, fucking sweet ink, bro." And I was like, "Oh, God damn it." And I had a rain jacket on in my truck, and he has a face mask on, and he takes his face mask off to ask me about my tattoos.
Excuse me while I breathe in your face.
Right? And I'm like,
Um,
come on, dude. And so
I-
then can you take your jacket off so I can see them? I was like, so uncomfortable. Go ahead.
I have people compliment my sleeve a lot, and but it's always the same conversation. It's always, I really like your tattoos, and then I go, thank you, and then they go, I have this one, and then they want to show me, and
Yeah.
it's always the worst tattoo ever. That was done with like a burnt needle in prison cell 564, in Angola. And it's blown out, all the ink's blown out. And now you have to lie to that person because now you have to go, nice, dude, nice. Yeah, I like that.
How many people that have asked you about a tattoo have been people that you're then friends with? You know,
Never.
like, or that you want to be even near that level of human being?
Yeah, it's never been that way.
I've had somebody ask, like, they always say like the word ink or tats, nice tats.
Yeah,
And
I get nice ink all the time.
yeah, and I always like immediately look at them. You're the lowest form of humanity.
I just tell them it's a birthmark and then walk off.
Yeah. It's never good. I had I've told the story, but I had the lady at the gas station like just lift up her shirt, show me like her stretch marks and everything. She's like, "Yeah, I got this one to cover up my stretch marks." And on this side, these ones are still pretty bad. And I'm like, "Oh my God."
It's a slinky. See, look.
Yeah.
Or it's an accordion.
I'm glad that we've properly disgraced this episode.
So speaking of tattoos, so one of the things that Kano did do, I pulled the old Kansas City shuffle that Johnny does.
Yeah.
So he was having trouble beating one of the guys in his class, one of the older guys, and he actually started bringing in techniques from like sumo and stuff, but he didn't have the stature to do it, which is where he ended up pulling the fireman's carry out of a wrestling book. And that's what I thought was cool, because you and I were talking about this earlier, where there was no YouTube. And so whatever resources he had available to him is what he had to pull from. So it was twofold. One, because wrestling, although was obviously very familiar to the world at the time, not everybody had access to that information, or not everyone was looking for that information. So he could go and pull techniques from other martial arts, bring them into the gym or to the dojo, and use them, and no one was the wiser, because it's kind of like what Eddie Bravo was doing, is that he would bring stuff in. And the reason he was so successful in jiu-jitsu was because pure jiu-jitsu guys weren't doing wrestling techniques. So they had no idea how to defend it. They were very strictly based on the techniques that were being taught to them by their instructors within jiu-jitsu and not spreading out into other places, which is so funny because we've had conversations in the past on the show about how so many gyms, they a very particular group that we've talked about before, there's no cross training allowed. And if you're not doing this particular style of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you're not doing real jiu-jitsu. It has to be this. But the founding roots of jiu-jitsu since Kano, all the way up to Maeda, all the way to Luis Franca and Carlos, it was all about innovating techniques from other places.
Yeah, and they're all like with Kano. Well, in Kano's instance, he's trained and sought training from several different coaches and styles of the same martial art.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought was interesting about it, or most interesting, is that there's a lot of documentation on Kano. Like there's not a lot of documentation on guys like Luis Franca.
No, it would, I guess, because you think about who was controlling the media at the time.
Yeah, he got overshadowed.
Yeah,
for sure. But like, even with Maeda, I don't feel like there's as much literature on Maeda as there is on Kano, because Kano was just such like a figure. They kept on to everything. And from what I read in his like journals, whenever he was still training with one coach, he had seen another style and had noted how their style was like superior, and he wanted to go try to train with them. And then after his coach died, he went and trained with that school and joined that school.
Yep.
Which I think is really, really interesting that we can see that. In everything that I've read too, he seems like a really, for the most part, a level-headed person. But I don't know if that's, again, what we were talking about. Like, I think these stories are like porn. Like nobody watches like the I love yous and stuff like that. They just want to watch the fucking.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
They cut all the stuff that they don't want you to hear about, and so it's like that Japanese culture kind of thing is very, very respectful and very like humble. So I wonder how much of that has tinted the view of Kano and how much of it's like very, very honest,
Right.
Because it seems like Kano is just like a very like chill, relaxed dude.
Mm-hmm. Which is,
go ahead.
Well, that's fairly expected of that era of that particular culture,
Yeah.
Very humble, almost self-deprecating at times, but extremely hardworking apparently, because the dude, like, I mean, he, and that's the other thing is this guy Kano was a teacher, both in the martial arts world and in the civilian sector, I guess you could call it. Can you imagine the amount of dedication you have to put in to get this good at a martial art while also maintaining like a family and a career?
That's true. I want to know. So here's something like I want to know how many of the judo techniques are there. Obviously, so like there's 40 judo, 40 throws in the Kodokan judo, whatever structure, and I want to know like where each one came from. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
So he basically combined two different martial arts per se, or two different styles, I guess you would say, because there was the Kido Ryu, which was all the throws, and then you had the Shinyo Ryu, which was the choking and pinning. And so he took the choking and pinning stuff from one style and combined it with the throwing style from another martial art and put them together to kind of create what would be known as judo, which is why you have the submissions and the throws in judo.
So if you have the 40 throws or the 40 techniques of judo or whatever it is, or exactly what it is, then I want to know what the Shinyu style, I want to know what their 40 techniques or whatever it is.
Oh
you know?
yeah. Because I mean,
I wanna
he
see
obviously didn't take all of them.
Right. I want to see what he cut out and like
Yeah.
what reasons. Because what if it's something that maybe he just didn't understand the the application to, but if like you went back and looked at it now with a mind looking at jujitsu, that maybe he wasn't looking at, then the techniques might be more valuable. Does
Yeah,
that make
because they probably only had applicability based on what he saw as an application of a procedure. So at the
right?
time, if he looked at a technique and was like, I'm never going to use that. There's no reason to have that in my style. But then now we look at it and go, no, that's totally applicable right now.
Yeah, right. Like, what if the Barambola was hidden deep in there or something?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was like, "That's stupid. Why would anybody do that?" And now we're like, "Oh, that's a technique that we do for some stupid reason."
I know.
Like if you were looking at if you were gonna create another martial art out of jujitsu, that would probably be one of those things. If you're plucking from Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that would be one of those things that would probably get left out. Or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would be that would be one of the things that get added to or added in. But does that make sense? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Berimbolo kind of techniques would get plucked out of there. Worm guard, that'd get plucked out of there. Maybe even spider guard. Spider guard can be pretty useful at times, though. I don't know.
Yeah, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that Steph kind of typed up. She mentioned their mats, basically just being straw on the ground, and so that's kind of like where the initial tatami came from, was like those straw mats on the ground. And then she mentioned that Kano was sent to meet with a baron who was the father of modern day Olympics. So what I find to be interesting about that statement is he was extremely well connected, because not only was he able to travel all over the place and learn these different martial arts to create judo, he also was able to get judo to be taught in public schools in Japan.
Well, from what I understand, like when he was, whenever I guess at his height or whatever, I don't think he ever had like a downfall. I think he was just riding that high until he died.
Mm-hmm.
But like whenever he was the fucking man, he was like pretty much the second guy in command in Japan. Because when we get later on into Maeda, we learn that Kano had issues there, and it ended up being the emperor in between it. And so like that tells me that like I think from the judo just rising, he became like that superstar of Japan. I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Because like because he had gone to he had gone to like several different Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was even alive whenever judo was first introduced into the Olympics.
I don't
'Cause
think he was either. I know he was a representative for
right.
Japan, but just like Brazil was trying to get Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into the Olympics, but it hasn't happened, right? So every country sends a representative that they of a sport or whatever that they want to be entered into the Olympics, but it doesn't always happen, obviously. And I think a lot of that was because when he created the Kodokan Judo Institute, it was an actual governing body at this point. So here it is. It's an actual institute that had, over 1,000 members by like 1911. And
8 floors in I think in the 1940s or something, it had 8 floors with 1,200 mats.
mm-hmm.
That's insane, dude. Imagine running a gym with 8 floors of mats going on.
one of the ways that they would practice to get better, because there weren't a whole lot of, people doing judo at the time because he created it, is he actually used to have his students do competitions against local police jiu-jitsu teams. And now, of course, the jiu-jitsu that we're talking about here is not the jiu-jitsu that we know today.
Like the Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And but yeah, so his students would regularly compete against police officers who essentially were the samurais of that time, I guess you could say, because they were the only entities that were engaging in combat, because they were police officers. They were dealing with bad people and bad guys and stuff. So, which is funny because now fast forward to modern day society, and our police officers get defensive tactics training once a year.
Yeah.
It's
bad.
Sad.
Then in like that was something that I found interesting about reading through like the journey of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is how much the Brazilians adopted that into their law enforcement pretty quickly. And even like it seems like through time we've lost that touch with like, we need to make sure that our law enforcement is like well equipped to deal with human to human contact. And just over time that's eroded. Even more so now. Now we're not even allowed to contact.
I know. And I know one of the reasons that I think that providing law enforcement with more combatives training, the reason I find that to be so important is not for the obvious reasons, which is that they're dealing with combat on a regular basis in civilian combat. But it's more so because the reason that you see so many law enforcement issues go awry, so many altercations and go wrong where you have officer involved shootings and things like that, is because they only have so many options. And once you exhaust all the highest level of that option, they teach police officers to go through a series of steps, ideally, right? So, it's verbal commands, and then it's this, and then it's this, and the last resort being to pull your weapon and fire it. But if I give you 2 tools to use, you're going to go through the process pretty quickly. But if I give you 5 different tools, one of which being some form of combative training that you can actually utilize to control and subdue the perpetrator, now I've added another wall in between the last line of defense, which is your weapon, your gun,
Right. Well, it just makes sense to have more tools. And
I was going to tell you guys, I got the answer on the Olympics.
Oh,
so in 1938, it became time for them to decide where the 1940 Olympics was going to be held, and they decided it was going to be at Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And Kano was on his way back to Japan, where he was going to get to see judo in the Olympics for the first time. It was their 12th ever. And unfortunately, he died of a sickness aboard the ship on his return at 79 years old.
I think he had
pneumonia.
Yeah, pneumonia.
Some people said it was food poisoning, but I think they ruled it basically pneumonia.
Yeah, I read that. I'd heard that there was like talk of a conspiracy.
Of course.
But no back it up. That's that's everything though. Everything has a conspiracy to it now. No, I really think that his whole journey is just so interesting to draw the parallels back and forth of like, it seems he didn't do anything different than what we see the innovators doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't live that much differently. The reasons that he does everything pretty much the same that we do things now. Even like some of the way that the sports progress, like almost all of these combat sports start off illegal everywhere, and then they slowly progress into being acceptable. And I think judo's not that case, but I read that boxing, actually in the United States, boxing was illegal for a period of time.
Really?
Yeah, and what was interesting is the travel. You couldn't take boxing film from state to state if you got caught with it
Really?
traveling with it from state to state. So it affected like the film industry of boxing for a little while. Yeah, I'm reading like this book on how the film industry and boxing like coexist and grew together, and it's really interesting to see like the weird little things that happened. But do we have any more on Kano? So he died. He didn't get to see it in the Olympics.
Yep, he didn't get to see it in the Olympics. And then so ultimately, he developed a huge network, the Kodokan Judo, obviously, and spread it out, and he kind of had his mission statement was basically to empower the weak. Basically, his idea was maximum efficiency with minimum effort. And so, and then also mutual welfare and benefit. So, which is kind of interesting because his teachings, and we're going to get into this on the third episode when we talk a little bit about the GF team and the non-Gracie lineage with Luis Franca and how they dealt, a lot of gyms in Brazil do the social projects where they want to build better citizens. I've had conversations with Master Julio, the the leader of GF team, and that's what he always says all the, world champions are great. It's great to be this and being the best, but at the end of the day, our goal is to create better citizens. And so it's interesting because it seems like that was Kano's not initial, but that was his lifelong mantra throughout the development of the organization that he built around judo, making sure that they were benefiting the physical and the mental of the citizen. So it was kind of interesting to see that. And then
thought about that too when I had read that. Exactly, was it what you had said? It was just interesting to see, like, again, the same things. Yeah, go ahead.
But ultimately, that's kind of where it came down from, and that's where he got started, and it eventually became obviously a world recognized sport because the Olympics picked it up, and then of course they've changed it completely to something that it wasn't initially designed to be, which I'm afraid may happen to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if it ever got picked up in the Olympics. We talked earlier about how you can't even do a kata-gruma because you can't touch the legs. You're not allowed to touch the legs with your hands in judo. That's so ridiculous.
But see, then some new, I mean, like, that's kind of where that's where Kano started out, like, he looked outside of the bounds of his martial art to find, like, the boundaries of what they were doing to find how to progress, how to push that to grow bigger. And now, like, I don't know, now you'll have to look, judo players will have to look outside of the realm of judo in order to progress themselves. But they can't even do that. There was a guy that competed in sambo. Did you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
There was like where was he from? I'm not sure what country he was from, but he got banned from doing any judo tournament because he went and did a sambo. I think the reason though was the Olympic training facilities to train for the sambo tournament.
I got you. So it was kind of utilizing their technology and equipment and stuff to go outside of another competition.
It is really distracting to have like a chat going on. I don't know how like streamers or whatever do it, because it's like I read, why can't you touch the legs, like right in the middle of me talking, and I was like, oh, I totally went off. I don't know. I actually don't know what they're ruling on.
I think they found it's a safety issue, just kind of like how you can't reap the knee in jiu-jitsu. I think somehow because of the way the throws are happening, they looked at it as a safety issue. I don't know how, or maybe it has to do with the fact that the ultimate goal is to ippon. So if you touch the leg, then essentially you're kind of disrupting the throw. And if you're disrupting the throw, then ultimately that leads to more niwaza on the ground stuff, which apparently nobody in judo wants to see.
I know they also push the action a lot in
That's what I was getting at. So nobody wants to see the Nuaza stuff on the ground. They want to see the high amplitude throws and the epons. And so I think this was a way to drive the competitors to do that. You take away any options they have of going to the ground and only being able to throw, then
Have you
you're
tried
gonna get that.
Have you tried like watching a judo tournament and keeping up with
I can only watch highlights. I can't watch a judo tournament because it's too boring.
it? Makes no sense to me. That I've even I watched the rules, they have like a video on the website on the International Jiu-Jitsu or Judo Federation, like a video on all the rules and everything or how it's scored. I can't even understand it. It's made for like kindergartners and I can't understand it. It makes no sense.
Stephanie asked if training judo would help your jiu-jitsu. Of course, absolutely, 100%. But
100%, yeah. I love
on
it.
the flip side of that, I mean, jiu-jitsu has judo throws in it. Like Brazilian jiu-jitsu has the judo throws in it. You have the sotogaris and the katagurumas and all those. Those are not. I mean, hell, we even learned that the kataguruma was a wrestling technique that got introduced into judo. So even calling that a judo itself isn't right.
I think
so. Yeah,
the reason that jiu-jitsu players got away from, I think jiu-jitsu players would be considered good takedown artists had we not just zoned out on guard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think once the guard was introduced, everybody was like, "Holy shit! You mean you could like beat somebody while you're on your, like you can choke somebody unconscious?" Like once
right.
that idea sunk in, then the idea of like having to throw them was just like, it's not even. Why would we even try?
Yeah, and you also, what you started seeing is people stopped doing takedowns in jiu-jitsu as a result of a hole in their game, the inadequacies. So they were like, well, I don't want to learn how to do judo. I don't want to learn takedowns. I don't want to do wrestling. So I'm just going to pull guard, and I'm going to negate the possibility of getting thrown, and I'm going to take away the opportunity for my opponent to throw me.
Right.
And that became like the game plan for so many people that it just became accepted that, okay, we're just going to pull guard.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't enjoy pulling guard most of the time. I always
don't
feel
either.
myself if I can fight for the take.
If you look at the greats from the past, Hodger and
yeah, that was one of the things that I was noticing was from that documentary, the Hodger Gracie documentary. He seemed to really start to turn it around with his judo. He
was so tall, and he could elevate you so well, like what you're able to do. He did a lot of foot sweeps, and he had that. His go-to was that frontward backward move, where you go for the foot sweep and it doesn't work, and then you switch the directions or whatever, kind of like what you were showing at the seminar, and that was kind of like his go-to.
And that's like seems common amongst a lot of like good jiu-jitsu players is they have a good a strong judo. But to answer the question, she said, when should you start training in these sports? I don't think that I've personally never. I guess I have. I've trained sport specific for each one, but I've always considered it training for takedowns. Does that make sense? I'm never like training wrestling because I want to be a wrestler. I went to like the college wrestling rooms because I want to get better at takedowns. Or defending takedowns as well. But so I think that it's just an asset of a whole complete game is what you're trying to
yeah, that's the idea. I think that until you develop a base, cross training really probably shouldn't be something you should really put too much stock in. Obviously, I encourage it at any point, but you don't want to start cross training so early that you lose sight of what your style really is. And so you have to kind of develop a base and set that base, and then start cross training to pick things out of the orchard to throw into your basket, as opposed to, because if you don't have a base, then you don't even have a basket to put fruit in. you're just holding a bunch of fruit in your arms and you don't know anywhere to put it, you know?
Yeah. I do think that white belts should learn more throws and takedowns though, because
Mhm.
like honestly, the person in more often than not in a white belt, the person that gets the takedown is the one that wins.
Yeah.
Or the person that scores the first points.
That's
Uh,
typically, and that's something that my coach always kind of pushes as well when we're doing competition training is that you be the first to score, like always be first. And because, and I teach my students the same thing, because if I score a 2-point takedown on you, you have no choice but you're now catch up, and because you're playing catch up, that's where a lot of mistakes are made because you have more to lose than I do.
right.
And so that's the way I've always taught it, and I always I do teach my students but I keep them very simple because I want them to have that ability, because
You kind
one,
of out a little bit, Mitch. Say that again.
am I?
Yeah. Or you did a little bit.
The reason that I want my students to have I teach them all takedowns and stuff is because it's not it's not for me to decide what their style is. And so just because I'm a judo, or not judo, because I'm a scrambler and I have a decent stand-up game and stuff like that, that doesn't mean that all my students should have the same game as me. So I teach a little bit of everything to include stand-ups to all my white belts and blue belts, and then let them decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the best approach. You kind of have to it's like throwing paint at the wall, hoping that it'll stick. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, a lot of the time you're just kind of throwing stuff out there, and I'm watching. Sometimes like I'll go over a series, and I'm watching like certain people, and I'm like, this really isn't just sinking in with them. This
Yeah,
is
this
just
is just not going to be your thing.
Yeah, and then and then a couple techniques down the road, I'm like, oh, they're getting this one, and then oftentimes too, um, we circle back around to that thing that they weren't getting, and somehow they all of a sudden get it. I've found so many times that like I didn't think that I could make a movement, like I couldn't make my body move this specific way, and then 6 months down the road and everything else I had been training had just kinda gotten my body to where I could move that way, you know what I'm saying? Like, mounted arm bars were like that for me for a long time. I couldn't do that S switch where you turn your
The
hip.
S mount.
Yeah, where you, like, put your hands on the chest and then kinda, like, do that hop switch or whatever. Um, I wasn't able to do that for the longest time.
Because your
And
legs are so long.
yeah, probably, and but then, like, 6 months down the road, I guess my body just had kinda figured it out a little bit better. But, yeah, I think that, like, the process, it all is in the process.
It
Super
is, and
sure.
Stephanie tossed out um, an old what is it, analogy that I used to use back in the day. Each student has to find the peanut butter to their jelly. I don't say that much anymore, but at the time, it was one that I used a lot whenever Stephanie was coming to my classes and stuff.
I'd say that you don't say it anymore because you found the peanut butter to your jelly.
Yeah, I had no reason to, because the search is over.
It's me.
um, and then there was something else I was going to mention about that, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. So you were talking about teaching series, and a lot of times I will teach a series as well. So I'll teach, here's a basic idea. Here's a basic transition from this position. Here is another transition from that position. And then finally, here's an advanced transition from that position. And then I'll even tell the white and blue belts, like, hey guys, look, I taught you 3 different versions of this transition because you're not going to always get the advanced position. And so I'll tell a lot of my students when they're young and stuff, because I know I've known instructors who will teach something that is a little too advanced for most of their students, and that might be the only technique they taught in class that night. And now they're stuck for the next 30 minutes having to walk each student through the technique because it was beyond their scope of comprehension. So that's why I always teach one or two super basic techniques and then a slightly more advanced technique. And I tell the white belts, I'm like, hey, give it a shot, see if it works, see if you can do it. If you can't do it, then while the advanced guys are training the advanced technique and drilling it, you go back and I want you drilling the simpler ones that we did before that.
You know what's honestly worked best for me is like I've taken a series like half, like let's say the half guard series that everybody does, where like you have half guard with an underhook and then you pull the leg out and come up to that dogfight position.
The Lucas Leite style.
Yeah, the coyote half guard or whatever. Okay, so like everybody does that the exact same way. But basically, like I usually will introduce the sequence to it at like as like a warm up, and then maybe then the next week then we'll go into like I'll break down all the details and I'll talk for like 15-20 minutes on it, and we'll do tons of reps of that. And then the next week I'll just tell them like do your half guard sequence, and they'll do like 30 minutes of just drilling that over and over and over and over.
Right.
And eventually it gets to the point where like you don't have to, like if you sometimes I'll have to spend the time for maybe a week telling everybody like, no, this is how you do it, and like correcting them over and over and over again. But as long as I'm diligent about like, this is what we're doing every single day, then like the following week I can get in and be like, half guard, do your Lucas Leite back take. And everybody bang, 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 bang. I think that's where people run into the biggest struggle is like most jiu-jitsu gyms is like, this person is teaching this day, this person is teaching that day, or this is what you're getting this day. And I'm even guilty of it all the time. Like I'll just jump around techniques until something I'm like, oh, I really feel good about this, I'm going to teach this for a while.
I teach positional, like I use the position itself to kind of garner my lesson plan. So I may go, you know what, let's do some half guard stuff. And then I have a half guard series that I teach. And since I teach the Tuesday, Thursday, 6 a.m. class, and then the Friday, 6 p.m. class, what I typically do is I'll teach one portion of the series on Tuesday morning. I'll teach the second part of the series on Thursday morning. And then on Friday at 6 p.m. in the afternoon, I teach the entire series as a class.
Yeah. I do. I've done similar stuff like that. I get too distracted. I just like, if I'm not like, I have to be diligent about doing the same stuff over and over and over. And then too, like, we'll have a tournament and I'll come back and be like, okay, we're going to do a class on like, we need to fix a couple holes, and then there'll be a couple weeks of just drilling the holes that we need to fix.
And that's what is great about tournaments is they expose that. They expose the hole in your coaching because if you see similarities throughout your competitors and you go, oh man, everybody once they get to this position, or why is nobody thinking to do this during this facet of the match? And you realize, oh, it's because I've lacked giving that information to them. Now I can close that up. And now I know moving forward that when we discuss this series or we discuss contest prep or whatever, I've got to make sure that I hit those marks again.
What's interesting too about that, or what you just said, is that Kano wasn't into competitions. Like he
wasn't, but he did advocate for his students to compete.
Right. But when he was asked about if judo was going to be introduced into the Olympics and stuff, he said that his intent was never for it to be a competitive sport.
Mm-hmm.
That there was mainly just two facets: was the randori and the whatever. What was the other one?
Kata. So you have Niwaza, randori, and kata, and
like basically patterns or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it basically said he didn't want there to be any competition, that it was mostly a way of life and a way of like building, almost like exactly what you were saying with GF team and everything, was just building better citizens. But that parallel is strong there. I don't think that. I wonder what his opinion now would be on competition though, because like it just like it's such a strong driving facet of learning for people. It's almost hard to argue. How could you learn judo without competing?
I know, right?
But then again, I guess if you're doing like randori or whatever, if you're competing with your classmates. But when you guys
I had
who-
I did
I'm the little spoon until I win a match against Mitch.
that's true. There was a time where I was at Barksdale Air Force Base, which is in my hometown in Bossier, and I was transitioning out of the Air Force, so I was getting close to becoming a civilian again, and I was going down to the gym on base, which was the closest Air Force base from where I was a recruiter at in Ruston, and my brother had gotten to where he wanted to get into MMA and stuff. It was a short-lived experience for him, and he didn't like to put in the work. He did not like to, because we'd go down and we'd work out, and I'd put him through like the gauntlet and stuff and he just didn't like to work out. He didn't like to do the conditioning stuff. And so but there was a judo class that was being taught by some guy there, and he was a black belt in judo, and he would and this was at the base gym on base. And I remember asking if I could train with his guys, if he didn't mind if I could train with them. And he said yeah. But I remember him saying he goes, we don't do a lot of groundwork, so please be careful with my students. And I was only a blue belt. I was a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I don't know that he knew the rank structure of Jiu-Jitsu, even though it's almost identical to judo for the most part. But I just remember thinking like, that's so strange. That's such a strange, because in my uneducated brain, I thought there were a lot more similarities between judo and Jiu-Jitsu. And then that's when I kind of realized, there's really not. Like most of classic academies or whatever, there's not a whole lot of ground emphasis.
I like that though. That's like, like you can train those separately.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea. I'd be like, yeah, when I one of the things that I struggled with, like when I would wrestle in the college wrestling room and stuff, was that like, or even like the high school wrestling or wherever it is, I struggled with like the rules of wrestling. For instance, you can't connect your hands together whenever standing up, or like wrapping around their belly or whatever. And so that's one thing that like as soon as I get a hold of you, I'm gonna wrap my arms around you and connect my hands together. And so I spent more time focusing on like learning the groundwork of wrestling than learning the defensive and offensive wrestling that I need. And so I would like, it'd be awesome to find a place where like we only do judo, but only the takedown part of judo. We don't do any of the ground part of judo. Like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do.
Right, yeah, because that's what you want. That's why we would go to a judo class to begin with, is because we're not trying to get better at the ground. We're trying to get better at the judo part, the throw parts.
Yeah. If they had like a wrestling gym where they were like, we only do takedowns and the defensive part. There is a lot of the ground stuff though that is really helpful. Stuff like from referee position and stuff.
Yeah. Stephanie asked if there would ever be a match against you and me again. Honestly, the only time I would ever fight you is if we were in a division and we didn't and we were, you know what I mean? Like I would never want to do another super fight with you.
I wouldn't. No, I mean, like I would do a super fight. I wouldn't care either way. I'm not like vying for one, but
right.
Like if it were like something like one of our friends had asked us if we would do a super fight. I'm like, yeah, we would totally do a super fight. And then I was thinking, I was like, what if it's against each other? I would do that too.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like I don't think that it would matter. I'm not gonna try. I don't think we should try and book ourselves for a super.
No.
But like, if it was like, yeah, we got this, I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't think it would make any difference to our friendship.
No, for me, I probably wouldn't do it. I don't know that I could get in the right mental space to really compete. Because the first time we fought, like we were friends, but I also didn't know you well enough, and I was able to stay in a very competitive mindset.
Right.
Now it's like
here too.
Like I consider Eric Ingram to be a friend of mine, but because we don't talk to each other very often, when we did compete against each other in Tennessee, I was still able to kind of keep a competitive mind state.
Right.
But like if Eric and I started hanging out or talking to each other on the phone and stuff, I probably wouldn't.
That is basically what we do now, is talk to each other on the phone.
I know. Stephanie said, what do you think Kano would think of jiu-jitsu today? I think he would be appalled, honestly. Like,
I think
he
it would
probably,
where he's looking, you know,
that's what I was getting ready to say. Like, I think if he was looking at the heavyweights, your Bucheches and your Leandro Lowe's, I think he'd be happy with what he sees. But I think if he were to look, you know what? I take that back, because he was so interested. No, I can't say that. I can't even say that he was interested in innovation, because he wasn't really interested in innovation. The idea is he wanted to just meld the ground with the stand-up. That was his idea, to create a well-rounded martial art.
You know who I think Kano would be proud of? Marcelo Garcia. That's who.
Mm-hmm.
That's who
Kano
would be like. That's judo. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what he would, or that's what his vision was a guy like Marcelo Garcia or Bernardo Faria.
Yeah,
like
that guy.
Those nice.
He has his own shirt now.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, it says it's got his picture on it. It says, "Hey guys, it's a huge honor."
I saw he had posted on Reddit about like that he had Googled himself, and that
it was that meme.
Yeah, and I started commenting something about like, hey, I bumped shoulders with you one time at World. I'm sorry. But I just couldn't do it though, because I also was afraid that it would he just like, there's always that language barrier.
And he wouldn't understand it. He would think you were being something different.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sound like a total weirdo.
Apparently, there were girls that came to see our super fight because they thought we were attractive.
Yeah, our girlfriends.
Yeah.
Duh. Come on. That's all that I would expect. It sounds like I mean, like, the idea of, I don't know where it comes from, as far as like where Kano came up with the idea of rank, or how he came up with the idea of rank, how any of that works. But apparently he's accredited with that.
Yeah, he was the first to start using a white and a black. That was so. And the Gracie family did the same thing initially. When and I don't know if Oswaldo Fada and Luis Franca did the same thing. I don't know, but all that did was you had to be a black belt in order to be an instructor. And so there was no rank at the time initially. So he had white belts for students, black belts for instructors, and that's how he set them apart. And then when judo started getting into the competition side, there needed to be rank in order to organize skill level. And so that's where the dans or the colors came in.
I wonder, there's just like, I want to invent my own martial art and start to do our own rank system. If you were gonna like, let's design our own martial arts uniform. It's gonna have an element of like all of the different martial arts that we've been talking about, and we need to have like those coloring pages where it's like color and fill in the outfit or whatever.
Mine would just look like the character Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. But if we could have like, we could take the pockets inside the pants from Turkish oil wrestling.
Oh yeah. And then
He would have filed down nails and teeth from American Rough and Tumble.
And then what was the Canadian Indian martial art, the Wichita or whatever?
Yeah.
You'd have the tomahawk or the rifle butt tomahawk thing.
Yep. So that'll be the weapon that they've killed. And then the pants, we can take the pants from the judo. They had like the shorts, like the gi shorts, basically. Take those from judo, and then put pockets on the inside of them. What else did we cover? 52 blocks. What would you use?
But you couldn't do much with that other than
the shank. The shank on the inside of your gi.
There you go.
What other martial arts did we do? Man, we've done a bunch of them actually.
I know.
I'm realizing that we've covered a lot of different martial arts. Okichita that was the
Native American one that was fake.
Well,
I take it back. It's real. It's just it has no origin of validity.
Oh, no, I guess maybe a hair salon, like a hair dryer or something
from Count Dante.
Yeah, from Count Dante. And then I can't think of any other martial arts now that I'm thinking of it. But yeah, we could I want a black silk. Yeah, Stephanie says she wants a black silk robe like Dante. I was thinking today too. We haven't done this in a while, but I want to try and get our listeners to share their favorite episode. Like,
yeah, we talked about that on the last episode.
Yeah, share the link to your favorite episode of the podcast. Because I want to go back too, and I want to listen to like what people's favorite episodes are, so that we can listen to it and then cater our material to the things that you like to hear.
But a lot of people don't remember or realize our first episode was like 3 hours long.
Yeah,
because we just kept going. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea. Like halfway through the episode, you went and got the John Cena belt and brought it in the room.
I forgot about that. And then like, what's funny is people were like, "Oh yeah, we really like that your podcast. It was great." And I was like, "Well, I guess people will like it long, so let's keep doing it 3 hours."
Yep. And, we'll just keep doing it 3 hours long.
Yep. And so now here we are 3 hours into an episode. I need to go back and start listening to him. This is episode 33. No, 34.
34.
Yeah. Whoa. We're coming up pretty quickly on like episode 50.
I know. We'll have to do something pretty good for that.
Yeah. We really do.
Podcast turns 50.
Episode 100 is like big one. Really got.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine. So there's 52 weeks in a year, and so we won't hit episode 100 this year. I don't think.
That's too much math for me.
Yeah, but I'm just guessing because we've already doing
it now. We've been doing it 6 months, right?
Well, there's April. There's been 4 months already have gone by.
We've only done the podcast for 4 months.
No. What I was saying is that there's 52 Sundays in a year.
Oh, okay.
And so we've done we're 4 months into this year, so that takes out 8. That's 16 episodes right there.
Yeah, we won't hit 100 this year.
No, it'll be probably middle of next year. We'll hit 100.
But still, if we want it to be big, we got to start planning it out now.
Stephanie's been with us for 10 episodes. I didn't realize that.
Wow, look at us growing, growing into nowhere. We've only degraded since we've started the podcast. We've only gone backwards. We've only gone worse. We're now to a point where we're having to phone call each other and talk on the podcast.
Eventually, by the end of the year, the episodes are just going to be 2.5 minutes long.
Yeah. Stephanie's only added more noise to the episodes.
I know.
And then yeah, it's gonna be just like the dial tone. Or the the dial tone whenever a computer's getting onto dial-up
The
internet.
dial-up modem.
Yeah. That is where you should upload that for a whole episode.
People would fucking lose their minds.
That'd be a good April Fool's joke.
That would be a good one.
Too bad we leaked it now.
I know. Stephanie
but-
asked if Kano was around, would there still be sexual harassment in jiu-jitsu? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
that's there's creeps everywhere.
Would we have sexual? Oh yeah. Yeah, we would always have.
Yeah, I'm sure that existed even back then. It was just slightly differently accepted because of the gender roles that were played in society at the time. But
Odds are Kano or one of his students were
yeah. If there's anything like
just playing
like
the
most
number.
leaders.
Yeah. I can't imagine a world where that kind of, I mean, honestly, like, obviously we always want, I just can't imagine a world where like those kind of crazy people don't exist, unfortunately. I don't feel women would be allowed to train judo. That's
Yeah, they
true.
could. I think they did though. I think
Oh
in
yeah.
Yeah, in feudal Japan and stuff like that, they had like all women's not feudal Japan, I don't know why I said that, but they had like all women class. I mean, martial arts was everyone had to do it because it was taught in school. Judo was offered in public school. So men, women, everybody trained.
I'm getting who we've been reading about mixed up now, but either Maeda or Kano was married to a like an Italian-born woman that was
Maeda. Yeah, Maeda was.
Maeda.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, his wife was like straight white looking.
Go Maeda. Getting that foreign girl.
Exactly.
I just love a good interracial couple in history, proving them all wrong. Because that was like turning heads back then.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I mean, like even whenever Bruce Lee was doing his thing in the 40s and 50s, I guess, is whenever he was dating his wife and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that was almost unaccepted. Bruce Lee's mother-in-law absolutely hated the idea that she called him a Chinaman or whatever. But no, what was it? Oriental? Yeah, she called him Oriental.
Civic slur.
I know.
No, that's just my favorite. It's like a good old fuck you to all the racists and bigots out there with a good interracial marriage.
Nothing like a good old interracial relationship.
To him like that, honestly. Or like just being happy, like of the race that they hate, just be like, we're happy and successful, and racist people will be like, no.
Well, what's even funnier is so not so much in America anymore, but back then, when he married that Italian lady, he was marrying her because she was probably exotic to him, but she also was getting the exotic fetish out of her situation too because he was Japanese.
That's true.
So,
what if
it's
men back then were like the thing, like they're not like the hot commodity now, but maybe 100, 200 years ago, they might have been like the hot commodity on the market.
It's very possible.
Yeah. I don't know what is the hot commodity
now today.
Yeah. You can't say like white guys because they're like like tall white guy or whatever. Like I feel like
no, I don't think that would be the commodity. Or it just depends on what part of the world you're in, like Mexico and stuff. I know I've heard that they like blonde hair, blue eyed men because it's kind of exotic.
That's true. Yeah. Well, why hasn't there been a killing racist people where there's like a racist people? Why isn't there a video game where the enemy is like blatant racist people, like the KKK?
Isn't that what Grand Theft Auto is?
No, because like some of the characters that you're playing are kind of racist, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, like Why hasn't the KKK been a villain in a video game yet?
I'm sure it has. It's just not a game that we've gotten our hands on.
That has
There's
to
a
be.
lot of underground games out
That's true, but I feel like that would be like a big time game.
there.
That
Yeah. Do you?
hell yeah, you can kill a bunch of go to a bunch of burning or cross burnings and just start spraying KKK guys on a video game. Hell yeah.
I wonder what the but I mean, what would be the mission? You know, like, well, I know. Oh, I mean, you know what? The game practically writes itself.
Right? Yeah. Like you don't need any motive. It's
No.
like these are bad guys. Go kill them. Oh, okay. See how many of them you can kill. That's a terrible way of thinking, though. Whenever you think about it,
Yeah,
but it's just a video game.
it's not real life.
Yeah, there's no way that it affects real life. Maybe that's why they don't make those video games, because it's too close to real life.
I think you'd be exactly right.
I
Yeah.
found one.
You found one?
Yeah, sorry. I had to cut in for this one.
I knew there had to be one out there.
It's a Wikipedia page. It was a Microsoft Windows computer game by it's the white nationalist group,
Hey,
National Alliance. It's called the Ethnic Cleansing.
Nailed it.
Oh, whoa! You're thinking this is like a game for the
It's
racists to play.
yeah.
Right.
The sad part is there's one out there.
Okay, I just want to be clear. That's not what I was describing.
No. No.
Apparently, in Red Dead Redemption 2, it allows players to kill Ku Klux Klan members.
You can't. I totally forgot about that. I've actually done that in that video game.
I was gonna say, how have you not known that?
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. But it's not like that's not like the game. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not like running around.
Well, there's another one. This might be the one she was talking about. It's a PC game. It says
it's ridiculous.
Players take on the role of either a skinhead or like, oh, this is reverse racism. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
The object of the game is to kill Black and Latino people.
It is racism. It is racism.
I didn't mean reverse. I'm sorry. I didn't mean reverse racism. I mean it was the reversing of the plot that we were discussing.
Yeah, we've got such a tangled mess of a conversation to be talking. Oh, yeah. So, just to be clear, I want the video game to be.
We want to kill racists.
Taking out
it was going to be like a revenge game.
Yes, there we go. That would be that. Just right. Yeah, you're right. That writes itself. Or an OJ game, because you have a car chase, you have a murder, you have golf, you have a courtroom trial, which was it wasn't even like a courtroom trial. That's like, and he could be or OJ's having sex with Kim Kardashian's mom, so there's that aspect of the game too. That could be a pretty deep game.
Is that's what's happening right now?
What? No, that's what happened then. OJ had, Kim Kardashian is OJ Simpson's daughter. You didn't know
sure about that?
I don't know. There's there's some conspiracy. I don't know who is having sex with who. Well,
the Kardashians' dad was one of O.J. Simpson's attorneys,
right? And he was married to. I don't know. There's some conspiracy that like OJ, he was like letting OJ have sex with his wife or something like that.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, look, it's fucking O.J. Simpson, bro.
That's true. Yeah.
The juice is loose.
How could you say no?
How could you say no? There was a bar in San Antonio on the Riverwalk, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was all 90s themed, and on one of the floors was 90s themed. and you walk into the bar and it has the TVs on. All these TVs are on, and it's just playing the O.J. Simpson chase on repeat. And then it actually had like a white Bronco in the bar that you could like take pictures of and stuff like that.
That's my nightmare. I
It
remember.
was,
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it was awesome at the time.
I remember whenever the chase happened. We were living in Colorado, and my parents had a bed on the floor in the basement of our house. That was their bed. Well, we lived in a duplex, and we lived in the basement of somebody else's house, basically. And like, there was a bed on the concrete floor, and we had a TV, and my dad was like just glued to the TV watching the OJ chase. And I was like, I want to say I was like 4, but I really have no concept of how old I was. When was the OJ chase?
Early 90s, 92.
92, so 87,
Something like
80, yeah, so maybe around 4 or 5. And I just remember being so fucking bored and be like, why the fuck is he so into this shit?
It was 94. Well, I mean,
it would have been 5 or 6.
I think about that all the time because one of my first memories of like a national event was during the initial Desert Storm, because it was all over the news. And I remember asking my mom, why, how were we safe? If there was a war going on, why were we not going to be killed? And she had to explain to me that it's in a faraway place and it's not even, whatever. And then the next one after that would have been 9/11. So like those are the two, because I don't remember the O.J. Simpson stuff at all. I have no memory of it.
Oh, really? I remember the O.J. Simpson. I remember the chase because of that and that specific thing. I remember just my dad being like glued to the TV and like, Dad, like what the fuck? Like why are you watching?
Part of me wonders
Drive
if I do have memory of it, or if it's just a false memory because I've seen it so many times on television.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories like that.
It was the Rodney King and the riots. That was in 92. So I definitely don't remember that.
Yeah. I remember the reunification in Germany. I remember seeing the fireworks and stuff outside for that.
See, I don't remember that either. I don't remember any of that stuff.
Well, like you wouldn't remember that probably.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was there for that. Yeah, and then I think you're right, probably like 9/11. As a kid, I don't know. I remember. Do you remember the monkey stuff that went on?
The monkey stuff?
Monica Lewinsky.
Oh. Kind of. So I don't remember anything about the whole scandal. The only thing I remember was I was at my grandmother's house staying the weekend when Bill Clinton gave the State of the Union address where he said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I saw that. I remember watching that on television because I remember my grandmother saying that he was just a lying Democrat. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know what that means. I thought they were all Democrats,
Oh yeah, the Paula Jones case.
Yeah, the Paula Jones thing with that was around the same Monica Lewinsky stuff though. Paula Jones, it's so funny because I always have these weird memories of how I assumed these people played out in history, and then you go back as an adult and you read about the actual cases, and you're like, oh shit, that's not what I thought it was at all.
Yeah. There's always some. Well, have you seen the Netflix series Waco that's coming out?
I just started watching it last night, but like we talked about earlier, I was super drunk and I don't remember it, but I do remember thinking it was funny that, because the guy who plays David Koresh is the same person who played Lieutenant Michael Murphy from the Navy SEAL movie, or Lone Survivor. And I just remember thinking it was an interesting role jump into that, but it was funny because we were sitting around watching it, and I'm a big history buff when it comes to that. Like, I know way more than I should about the Waco, Ruby Ridge, and the Oklahoma City bombing stuff. And it was like right as I was explaining to one of my friends that was here, who was watching it with us, I was because she actually was like, I don't know what this is. So I was explaining to her about Waco, and then I said, the Oklahoma City bombing was a result of Waco and Ruby Ridge. It was Timothy McVeigh's basically, fuck you to the U.S. government. You attack us, we're going to attack you back, kind of thing. And right as I said that, it actually connected the Ruby Ridge deal with the Waco deal, kind of alluding to the fact. So I don't know if it's going to get to the point where it talks about Timothy McVeigh's inspiration, because Timothy McVeigh was actually at the Waco compound selling T-shirts. He wasn't at the compound. He was, in the safe zone, but they actually have footage of him selling T-shirts on the side of the road during that whole thing in Waco.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know they did a series on Timothy McVeigh, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to connect the dots or not. That'd be pretty sweet, though. Like,
I know.
It'd be sweet if they tied it all together. Like,
well, because for a lot of years they didn't know that there was any tying together to be done. They didn't realize that they were interconnected that way until a couple of years after the fact.
Yeah, that was like one of the biggest manhunts too. Like they looked for him for a long time.
I do remember the Oklahoma City bombing. Like I do remember that pretty well.
Yeah, I remember that as well. Have you been to the memorial?
No, I haven't. I've been to Oklahoma City a bunch of times. I just never have gone there. What was interesting was initially they thought that it was Middle Eastern terrorists. So it's just funny if you go back and watch all your action movies over the past like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
The terrorist groups have always made like full circles, because like it was always Middle Eastern terrorists in like the movie Navy SEALs and all that. And then you watch Die Hard, and now it's he's like Ukrainian or like Russian or something like that,
Eastern European.
Yeah, you got Eastern European. So it's kind of neat to see, like, as the action movies progress through history, the current events slid into them, but it was always a full circle. And the terrorist groups have always been like the same ones, like Serbians, the Middle Eastern terrorists, Eastern Bloc terrorists. It's always like those same three that get cycled through.
The funny thing, some of the funny things about that is like people will be like, yeah, that's designed to scare you. They do that to scare you and like brainwash you. And I want to say like, yeah, they do that to scare you. Like that's their intention, is they want you to like, they want to get that emotion out of you. So they try to figure out like, connect the dot. It's going to scare somebody right now, a Middle Eastern, but let's put them in there. And so like it being this like, it's that connecting the dots backwards thing, like this conspiracy, they're all trying to brainwash us into hating all Japanese people, and like, but then I guess back then they were super racist, so you can't say that because they were like absolutely trying to brainwash.
Exactly.
But then when I think about it, like if I were making a movie, you know what I'm saying? I'd be thinking like, what's my thought process would be, what's scary to people right now? What's the scary thing to people right now? Middle Eastern terrorists. So
it's true. And viruses.
Yeah. And let's take our villain and make them a Middle Eastern person, right? But then whenever you think about it in billionaire terms, you have to make everything racist.
Speaking of billionaire terms in the COVID-19 thing, I saw something kind of interesting today that I was like, you know what, that is kind of a funny scenario. Not funny, it's actually pretty tragic. So we've had to close non-essential businesses. So there's all these small businesses like your gym, like these small business owners, that are deemed non-essential, and so they have to close. But a store like Walmart has been deemed essential, and all they do is sell non-essential items. I know that there's stuff there that people are, but my point is that, like, how do I say it? So, you know what? Now that I think about it, we really do need Walmart.
Yeah.
Then, a pretty bad example.
So I was thinking about this because Amazon got
It's because
Yeah.
they have grocery stores. So the rule is anybody that sells any kind of grocery is considered essential.
Yeah.
So like Dollar Trees, because they have a freezer section and a small food section, it's
Which is
considered
dumb
essential.
because there's so much other stuff that is considered essential that isn't food. You know, like you need medication, you need first aid kits, you need
But so
hygiene products.
and I agree with that. And that's why like in some states they've had issues because they've deemed some things non-essential, so therefore they just wouldn't sell them at all. And
the
that's
struggle
where
is
you get what do you pick and choose that's essential to somebody and not to others, and people start freaking out about their rights are being taken away because fuck you, I want to buy this earring set right now or whatever.
There's how do you determine what's essential to different people in different situations too? You know, like what if there's a part on your air conditioner that's going out and you need the tool to that part, but you can't get it from Lowe's because they're deemed non-essential. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a baby at home and it's summertime and you need that air conditioner. Something like that. I don't know, but
no, that's a great
example. I did see what I went to Walmart today because I had to do grocery shopping, and as I'm going down, because I knew exactly where the stuff was that I needed, I can tell people got their stimulus check because it was like everybody had their tax return.
yeah.
I saw one lady pushing a cart and it had rugs in it, and throw pillows and a blanket, and it's like you're redecorating your.
And that's what the stimulus check is supposed to do. Like, I mean, it's an economy stimulus.
I think the point is though that a lot of the stuff that's still being bought is unnecessary, stupid,
right.
though. Like putting like the idea like put out TVs for exactly $1,200.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I saw. It was a 75-inch TV for like $5.98.
Yeah.
So half your money gone.
I just put all mine in savings. So
guys, I want to wrap this up because I'm getting tired.
Okay, you guys ready for it? I got the
we're gonna do
quiz.
the
quiz.
Yeah, we got a quiz, and then we're gonna get off here because this is gonna be a long episode.
It is, and I'm sleepy.
Yeah,
and banks are essential, so I have to go to work tomorrow. First question: how do you guys deal with a fight? Do y'all talk it over in person, or text it out, or give each other space, or you've never fought?
We've never fought.
And the thing is I think about this all the time because that doesn't mean that I haven't pissed Johnny off or Johnny hasn't pissed me off. I think the reason we haven't fought is because we are, I don't know, like if Johnny's ever done something that's pissed me off, I just look at it and go, it's not that big of a deal. Like it is what it is. Like there's no point in talking about it.
There's really nothing that we do that's a big enough deal to like get bent out of shape about.
All right. What role does your BFF play when you're about to go on a date?
Ooh.
Do they give you lots of advice? Do they basically walk you through everything, text, outfit, planning?
I don't know why, for some reason, I immediately assumed that meant that me and Johnny were going on the date together.
No. You might tell them how it went afterwards. You're going to call him
I think it'd be
right after and tell him everything.
I think it would be one of those text you afterwards kind of thing because when you called me the other day, it was really surprising. Like when I was laying in bed and I saw the number pop, it surprised me because we don't talk on the other than doing this, you know, but we mostly handle everything through text.
Yeah, most of the time. I was gonna say if there's anything that you would do before, it'd be my hype man.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% your hype man. That's for sure.
It looks huge right now.
Oh, Lord.
Let me fluff that shit.
Next question.
Have you ever seen your best friend cry?
No.
A couple of times, only once, all the time, not yet.
Not yet.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if your best friend had a crush? If you guys like the same person, has it come up?
We'd have big problems.
Yeah, we'd have some pretty big problems.
Yeah.
I would find a way to make it Johnny's fault and make him feel guilty about it.
Well, your options are: it hasn't come up yet. The first one to make the move obviously wins. We'd call it
because
a
all we would do
truce.
is we would just
and
do it
neither-
anyways and then not tell each other.
We'd call it a truce, and neither one of us would make a move. We discuss it and come to agreement before someone makes a move.
We'll just say this. Here's the I'm gonna lay this to rest right now. First one to make a move wins.
Fair.
That's the rule.
Okay.
The
I'll
first
allow
one may even have to make a move, then the other one has to bow down and just walk out.
Then it becomes this weird race.
Where it's like both of us are like a total standstill. Like, I'm not gonna make a move, dude.
It just becomes the movie Something About Mary.
Okay, next question.
Are you and your bestie comfortable just hanging out and not talking?
No,
because that's all we do.
that's what our relationship is built around.
No, it's uncomfortable, and I'd prefer to talk about something. Or very
good.
comfortable.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, I'm so tired. We've started recording these later and later. Dude, this shit's got my sleep schedule fucked up.
All right. Finally, do you guys talk about your sex lives to each other?
Well, yeah, after this, the beginning of this episode, yeah.
All the time, even discussing stuff, especially when it's the most disgusting stuff.
We've had some pretty disgusting conversations about sex.
I'm saying, then because the rest were no's. So
that's true. I share pretty much like all stories that I have with everybody. I wouldn't say that I'm the I'm a little bit of an over, so I would say that. Yeah. Is that the last one?
Yeah, but it didn't do shit.
Yeah, that's the story of our life with these stupid.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say it. You guys are besties through and through.
Nailed it.
Bingo.
Congratulations.
We need to create little awards for ourselves on our Discord. Our little lonely chat room. Eventually we'll have people on here one day that will come and hang out with us.
Right.
I think that it's the coolest idea.
I think we need to come up with a different time.
Yeah, that could be it too. Or just, make more people like us.
Also.
Ooh, that's a good name right there. No hold. That should be the name of our question channel.
No holds bars?
Yeah. No holds barred. And then what was the other? Bone setters. We need to
Bone setters. That's our fan club.
Cool, just like graphic or something to use.
I think so.
Yeah, the bone setter. That's cool. All right, we need to get off here, and that's it, everybody. We will see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.
See you.